Hey everybody, here today we have Lev Parnas. Lev was a key player in the Trump-Ukraine scandal and also a close associate with Rudy Giuliani. Ultimately, he was found guilty of 6 counts related to illegal campaign donations to President Trump and sentenced to 20 months in prison as well as supervised release. You finished your sentence. It's great to have you here. It looks like you have gotten some sun. Congrats, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you guys. It's my pleasure to be here. And It's just so surreal. I mean, just got released a couple of days ago, and I've been trying to soak in every little moment of it, taking the kids to the park, going grab something to eat with them, driving them to school in the morning, picking them up, and it just, it's so incredible to think about the little things that we take for granted of everyday life until it gets taken away from you. And then you realize how important those little things are that we just, because before I was, never thought it's a big deal to drive the kids to school or pick them up. Like, oh, my wife will do it, but then being away from that whole environment for 4 years, it's been such a struggle. And to see what they went through, what my family went through, and what I went through, and now to be able to now start fresh and all over again, it's just an incredible feeling. I can tell you that.
What was the first thing you did once you were out of home confinement?
The first thing I did is I went to my mother's cemetery. That was the very first thing I did because I wasn't able to go visit her cemetery after she passed away a couple of months ago. They allowed me to go to the funeral, but that was it. So I wasn't able to go to the cemetery. So the first thing is we went to my mother's cemetery, and then I took the kids to their favorite restaurant that they've been dying to go because we've been Uber eating at home for the past God knows how long. They're like, Dad, we want to go out. We can't eat at home anymore. And we did that. And then, I try to get normalcy back by waking up in the morning, taking them to school, dropping them off. I went to the gym finally. I haven't been to the gym. I wasn't allowed to go to the gym. So I went and signed up to LA Fitness. So now I'm able to go to the gym and just like little things, running around, going to the supermarket, things that I haven't, I forgot what the supermarket looks like, going shopping with my wife and going to the grocery store in just that. I mean, it's only been a couple of days, so I haven't really gotten a chance to really take it in yet. I still feel very awkward because like yesterday we had parent teachers conferences, and it was amazing to finally go meet the teachers because my wife would have to go all the time by herself because I was never able to go. And then finally I showed up, and I'm sitting there as they're talking, and I feel awkward thinking that I gotta hide my bracelet, the tracker on my foot. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I forgot it's not there," because I don't want to see it like feeling weird. But little things like that still. Waking up in the middle of the night waiting for that phone call because they would call every night between 12 and 2 o'clock to make sure that you're home and you didn't run away anywhere, stuff like that, just try to take it in.
Yeah, so like what would you say? So first of all, I guess how long was has it been since you had your freedom? Like up
uh
until this point?
Up until this point, well, I got released on the 5th.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So like before that, like how long was it before? How long were you in confinement or serving your sentence?
well, it's been a while. It's been 4 years altogether because what
Wow.
transpired was after my arrest on October 10th, 2019. I was placed on very strict home confinement. I wasn't able to leave the house, literally 24-hour home confinement. And then COVID hit. So once COVID hit, and they released me a little bit from home confinement, but COVID hit. So then I couldn't leave because of COVID. And then my trial was, came up. And then I got sentenced and went away to prison. And then I came on back to, the halfway house, which because of COVID, they were allowed me to do the remaining sentence at my home confinement again. So it's been like 4 years. I mean, since I
So
was
so
able
you're
to.
known for your connections to Rudy Giuliani and for all of the things you did over in Ukraine and Russia to help Giuliani and ultimately Trump out. I wonder, how did you meet Rudy Giuliani? How long did you know him and how did you two connect?
Yeah, well, first of all, people say I was close to Rudy Giuliani, but I was close to Trump before I was close to Rudy Giuliani. I was closer to Trump before I met Rudy Giuliani, and Trump was just as complicit and just as involved in everything that was going on. So it wasn't like a lot of people say Rudy was doing it. No, it was Trump and Rudy doing it together. Just Rudy was, like I say in my book, Shadow Diplomacy. He was the shadow Secretary of State, basically, at the time and running the show, and I was his right hand. So Rudy, I met the first time at a fundraiser dinner that I held for Trump in Boca Raton, Florida. That's where I met him for the first time, but we interacted. We didn't even exchange phone numbers. We saw each other several times at the inauguration at the Trump White House, not White House, but when I would go to Mar-a-Lago or the Trump International Hotel in D.C. So we'd constantly see each other, but we didn't have interaction. And then finally, in about 2018, about a year after first meeting him, I was introduced to one of his friends who was also a lawyer at the time and wanted to introduce me to Rudy officially because Rudy obviously was having financial difficulties and was looking to make some money. And we had a company called Fraud Guarantee at the time. It was an insurance company that we used to call it the anti-Bernie Madoff policy because of my background in Wall Street. There was never an opportunity for investors that would lose their money because of fraud. Yes, the people that would commit fraud would go to jail, but usually there was no money to pay back the investors. So I came up with an idea that, why don't we have an insurance policy? So this way, if there's fraud that happens and you could take, you invest $1 million into, some sort of a IPO or a private placement, you could take out an insurance policy to protect your money against fraud. So if there's any
That
fraud that
makes
takes place.
sense. So that makes a lot of sense now. I remember when you were arrested, a lot of people were mocking the name Fraud
Yeah.
Guarantee, but that actually I always wondered about that, but that actually makes sense now.
Yeah, no, a lot of people never really realized it, but it was a great product. Just that I never had any background in insurance, so it was very difficult. Didn't realize what it would take, and dealing with it to actually build a product, and got myself a little bit caught up in it. But Rudy was excited about the company. He heard about it and wanted to meet with us to discuss, being the face of the company because it was similar. He wanted to do what he did with LifeLock. If you remember what Rudy did with LifeLock, it was another company. He promoted it and helped, get it to a very, very nice number. So I met Rudy then at Trump International. We had a meeting. This was in 2018, I think, maybe April or May, somewhere around that time, and it was insane. I mean, it was like a movie. We basically straight from there, we never separated really. I mean, we became very close from that day on. We went to dinner that day. Next day, he wanted me to fly to New York to meet some of his other lawyers to discuss the deal. We flew to New York. After the meeting in New York, he invited me to go to a Yankee game at the Steinbrenner box that he would watch the game. We went to the game together, and basically we were together every day, so going from there until my day of my arrest.
And Trump claims that he never met you and he doesn't know who you are, right?
I mean, that was completely, I mean, I couldn't even understand it. I mean, I've had so many private interactions. I mean, dinners, one-on-one, individual. I mean, forget about it. I'm not even talking about events or rallies or, pictures that we've taken. But I mean, I've had private dinner with him in Mar-a-Lago. I've held a private dinner for him with like 10 people where we spent 2 hours together just talking. I mean, we had the dinner, I met him at the White House. I mean, there's so many different occasions. I couldn't believe when I heard him say that. But then later on, reflecting on it, that's his mo. Deny, 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 lie, 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 deny some more, lie some more. Until people get tired of hearing about it, and they just move on to the next subject.
So like how angry are you? Like obviously you committed these crimes and you were convicted, but a lot of it had to do with you working with people that were at the highest echelon of the government and people that you probably viewed as just and good people. So like, are you angry at your interactions and how Trump and Giuliani treated you? Do you take responsibility for the actions that you've done? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, I take full responsibility for all the actions I've done. I'm a grown man, even though I feel that I was in a cult, and because when you're in a cult, most people don't realize you lose your mind and you believe certain things, and things look different to you at the time. But I still take full responsibility. I made the choices that I did, but you have to understand, just like you said, I was dealing with the president of the United States, with his right hand, Rudy Giuliani, who was not only his attorney, but he was at the time America's mayor. I mean, the guy ran for president before. I mean, he was top Justice Department guy in the country, considered. Plus, not only them, but I dealt with Devin Nunes, who was the House Judiciary Committee chairman at the time, Kevin McCarthy, Lindsey Graham. I mean, you're talking about, all the top people in the GOP that were all on the same page, that the Democrats were corrupt, that there's a deep state, and that they were at war and they're trying to destroy our country. And I truly, truly believe that I'm going to be a hero, that I'm going to get a Medal of Honor, that I'm saving our country, that what I'm doing is not bad. I'm doing something that's great, and using my contacts and the knowledge God gave me to be able to speak the languages, to be able to go to Ukraine and uncover this crazy conspiracy that was, laid out to us at the time.
Like I think a lot of people fall into that trap. They fall into the trap where they're surrounded by these powerful people, people who they've looked up to, people who they believe are doing good things. And then they realize after time goes by, like maybe this isn't so good. And I think it happens on both sides of the aisle. But I feel like with Trump, there are so many people that, just fell into everything he was doing. And you like to refer to it as a cult. I tend to stray away from that term because I know how polarizing it can be. And I don't think everybody who supports Trump is part of a cult. I do think that there are people who definitely get sucked into it like a cult, and those people are essentially in a cult. But I wouldn't term every Trump supporter as being
Absolutely.
part of a cult, right?
No,
But
absolutely.
you got sucked in, and you believed what you were being told, and you thought you were doing things for the good of the country and the good of the party and for the good of the president of the United States. And it's hard to blame people that have gotten sucked in like this, whether it was Michael Cohen, whether it was you, whether it was Igor, your partner, I guess.
Yeah.
And even like Rudy Giuliani to some extent, I kind of feel like he got sucked into it. He realized that, this is a great way for me to kind of become relevant again. I think Giuliani has this tendency to want to get that relevancy back, and this was a way for him to do it.
100% it. And first of all, I want to make it clear, I don't want to I mean, categorize everybody that supports Trump as cult members. Absolutely not. You're 100% right. I'm talking about a certain group of people that definitely is a cult, that no matter
Including
what you say.
yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
including yourself, right?
Well, I believe I was part of the cult, because the difference between supporting somebody because of, you don't like the Democrats, or because you don't like certain policies, or because you believe in certain things, political aspects of it, that's not cultism. That's, normal day life of, an American citizen, actually. I'm talking about people that are willing to storm the Capitol. I'm talking about people that are willing to risk their lives. I'm talking about people that have never met this man, don't know what he's about, and turn a blind eye to basically every criminal activity he does. I'm talking about people that it's not that are willing to take up arms because they feel that he's being unjustified. Those are cult members. Those are people that are, it has nothing to do with policy, it has nothing to do with democracy, it has nothing to do with right or wrong. It's basically they're defending their guy, their leader, at any cost. So that's how I want to break it down. There's definitely a major portion of the Trump mega base that are cultists, and that there's, no matter what you tell them, I don't care. And when he made that comment that I'll shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, only a cultist would be able to agree to that, because normal people wouldn't agree to that. And there are people that wouldn't care if he shot somebody, because they'd make an excuse and say it wasn't his fault. He got attacked, or, the camera is wrong, or, it wasn't really him. It's the Biden DOJ is making it up. I
It was
mean,
self-defense,
it was
like there'd
self-defense.
always be
Exactly.
those,
There's
yeah.
always, exactly. And so So yeah, so I want to make it very clear that definitely, I'm not trying to categorize everybody because there's a lot of people that are just lost. First of all, a lot of people that are misinformed. Most of America is not sitting on spaces or doing research every day. They live normal day lives and come home and catch 10 minutes, half an hour of the news, and they see the headlines. And when you
Right.
see the headlines, and that's what they go by. They really don't know what happened. And if you're a Fox, if you watch Fox, and the headlines every day is Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Ukraine, corruption, and you see people like top GOP congressmen and senators on there spewing the same thing, lies, with no
Well,
facts to
So,
back it up.
so,
So yeah,
so don't mean to cut you off. When
yeah.
was the first time you began to realize that, hey, this is a cult, or hey, maybe these people aren't at who they say they are, aren't doing the things they say they are. Maybe I'm in over my head. Was it before your arrest or after your arrest?
Oh no, I had to hit a brick wall. I didn't realize it. I was full fledged. Even when I got arrested, I was sitting in the prison cell waiting for the cavalry to come and, talking to the guards like, wait till you see what, when I get out of here, you guys are going to have egg on your face. I was telling the FBI agents, laughing at them, saying like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you arresting me? I also was looking at it that this is part of a political stunt to hurt Trump. That's why they're going after us, because remember, we were on our way to Vienna to pick up the Biden laptop. The hard drive that we were supposed to it was supposed to be handed over to us. So at that moment, I still strongly believed in it. But then, spending 2 weeks in solitary confinement in prison, and certain things happened while I was in prison. First of all, finding out that Trump decided to disown me and say he doesn't know who I am, firing the lawyers that he gave me because they came in there, John Dowd, trying to, scream at me and tell me that I'm nobody and he's the president. I have to fall in line and do what he says. Then getting a postcard from the White House slipped under my cell. I mean, you gotta understand, it's impossible to be able to, unless
What
the
did that
guards were.
postcard say?
I'm not going to reveal everything it said. You got to get my book to see it. But it was basically telling me in not so many words that keep your mouth shut. Manafort, you have good lawyers, and Manafort did, because one of my lawyers was Kevin Downing, who was also Manafort's lawyer that Trump assigned to me. It was John Dowd and Kevin Downing, and to be a good soldier, and that's not so many words. And I
So,
was able to.
so so we are going to talk about your book, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
talk about that here in a
yeah,
minute. But I do want to ask you a couple more questions about Rudy Giuliani, but also
absolutely.
the Hunter Biden laptop. Like that has become such a huge story, especially for those on the right. Like, and you played a such an integral part in that story. So, like, could you quickly sum up like the whole Hunter Biden laptop story and where it came from, what your role in it all was,
Yeah,
and how things played out.
absolutely. I mean, first time we heard anything about a laptop was from certain Ukrainian ex-prosecutors and current prosecutors at the time. There was mention of it going back to beginning of 2019. We were told that there is, that Zlochevsky has certain information on a laptop pertaining to Hunter and Joe Biden that could be very relevant to us. And we were searching for it, but we were never given it. So we and thought that was conspiracy theory, and we gave up on it until June of 2019. Rudy asked me to go to a meeting with him. He wanted to introduce me to somebody he's been working with for a very long time, or about 15 years at the time. He was a Russian gentleman, Vitaly Prus, that basically would get Rudy gigs, speaking arrangements in Eastern Europe. That was, close, to a lot of Russian oligarchs and politicians, and maybe even the president himself. And when we went to that meeting in Cipriani's, at that meeting, he basically told us that there was a laptop, a hard drive, actually. He didn't say laptop, he said hard drive, pertaining to some very, uncomfortable pictures of Hunter Biden and certain things that he was, involved with.
Now,
And
how long was this before the laptop showed up in the repair shop in Delaware?
about a year.
A year. Wow.
This was June 2019. And Rudy, went right into it because he considered Vitaly a very, good source. And we started asking questions, and Vitaly told us that basically what happened was that on the trip to Kazakhstan at one point, Hunter got intoxicated to a very extreme place, and while he was intoxicated, his laptop was compromised by the FSB, and also it was Lachevsky's people who had a Burisma, and they made copies of the hard drive. And he told us that, what's on, when Rudy asked him what's on the hard drive, because Rudy was mostly interested in the financial stuff to prove that, because what we were looking for, that we were told always that there was, the same conspiracy theories that Joe Biden took bribes, that Hunter Biden sent money over to Joe. So we were looking for the financial, the bank records to show that connection, to basically, show the facts, which we could never get, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at the time. And so when Rudy asked Vitaly about that, he told him that there's really nothing there that has to do with a lot of financials or business that will prove anything that he did anything illegal. What is on there is compromising pictures and videos of him, drinking, doing drugs with prostitutes and stuff like that. So that's a very interesting point that I want to make it clear, because now all of a sudden, after the hard drive shows up, and after Rudy dispenses it to the New York Post, and after several other people, a bunch of other people, like Bannon and all these other people have had a chance to go through this hard drive, all of a sudden there's so much on it, and again, I can't talk about things about China. I have no idea. I've never been involved in that investigation. Don't know anything that Hunter did in China. Don't know about his taxes. Wasn't
So
involved in it.
one question that always comes back to me is, you and Rudy Giuliani were going to go to Vienna to obtain this laptop, you said. And this was over a year before it actually showed up in Delaware at the repair shop.
Correct.
But then you realize that the repair shop owner called Rudy Giuliani and turned it over to him. How
Exactly.
could that be such a coincidence that you guys were looking for it in Vienna, and then this repair shop owner in Delaware just randomly decides to hand it over to Rudy Giuliani and let him know about it? Like, why would it be Rudy Giuliani out of every single person in the entire universe?
Thank you,
Could
Ed.
Giuliani have had connections with this repair shop owner? Could he have turned it over to him first? And
Well, I
then,
mean,
like,
yeah, I
what,
mean,
like, it
anything's
doesn't make sense
possible.
to me.
First of all, anything's possible, but very important when you have to make a distinction here, and this is where the key comes in also. The laptop itself was never turned over to Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani had hard drives of copies of supposedly the laptop. These are hard drives that were supposedly copied from the laptop. The laptop was always in the FBI. The FBI has the laptop, and it's never been released. So we don't really know exactly what's on the laptop itself. We only know about things that Rudy released off these hard drives that were told to us. And there's a lot of, like you said, I, coincidences. I mean, these are bigger than coincidences. Here we are in 2019 being told about hard drives, not the laptop, about copies of a hard drive. And then all of a sudden, this laptop appears in Delaware, and the first person this guy calls is Rudy Giuliani.
Now,
Then
you
Rudy,
weren't working with Giuliani at the time that laptop was turned over to him by the repair shop owner, were you?
no, I was already indicted. We already
That
broke
could be
both
the
ties.
missing link. If you were just still working with Rudy Giuliani at the time, you would have the answers,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
But I don't put anything past Giuliani and that crew. I mean, just from the way they looked at, I'll give you an example. I mean, look, I remember one time that Giuliani gave me a list of questions with John Solomon to get over to Zlochevsky, who was the CEO of Burisma, to answer on behalf, that had to do with Biden. And when I got him the questions, and Zlochevsky finally answered them, and he didn't answer in the way Giuliani wanted to hear the answers, because he said that, Burisma never had Hunter do anything illegal, never had him lobby on behalf, they never spent any money to Joe Biden. When Rudy saw that, he flipped and told me to bury it and make sure nobody ever sees that again. So just for that simple fact, I mean, it didn't, they weren't looking for the truth. They were looking for gotcha moments to be able to nail him, somehow. It didn't matter if it was factual, if it was made up, even to the simple fact, look at who Rudy started working with after I got arrested. Because prior to that, I kind of, was so loyal, to our country, so I wasn't on the same maybe page with Giuliani. Maybe he had other things that he was thinking about because there was characters that would come into the mix like Andrei Dirkach, Andrei Tiloshenko, and Fuchs and all of these people that now are coming out in these 1023s, and now we're starting to find out everything I've been saying for all these years and now getting validated to another degree. When they were trying to get to Giuliani, I would cut them off because even the most corrupt Ukrainian officials would be telling me, "Hey, Lev, these guys are, Russian assets, and these are not. This is a different level." And Rudy, and I would tell that to Rudy, and Rudy knew that these guys were no good, but for some reason, people like John Solomon, Victoria Tunzing, Ron Johnson, all of these people were still pushing these people, and Rudy, what I found out later was talking and working with them behind my back. Actually, at the same time he was having me and Igor go out there and do our stuff, he was also interacting with these people. So when I got arrested, and then in 2020, when I saw him go to Ukraine with this group of people and interview Andrei Dirkach and Tiloshenko and have them raise their hand, on that OAN special, like, that they're, giving some sort of oath or something to tell the truth, and start spewing conspiracy theories. And I could see that they went to a different level because these were people that were able to, manufacture audio, video recordings, manufacture paperwork because it was a different level. These are people that were, like Andrei Dirkach, I mean, was a KGB agent, back in the Soviet Union. His father was the head of the KGB. I mean, he's currently on the run, not only from the United States authorities, but also Ukrainian authorities. Andrei Tiloshenko was hired by Pavel Fuchs, who was a Russian asset, basically. So I mean, you're talking about people that had a different type of powers to be able to provide Rudy and his group of the information they wanted to try to prove that Joe Hunter did something wrong. Not actual facts, but manufactured facts.
So do you think that, well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Republicans are going to try and push this whole impeachment thing of Joe Biden and link it to the laptop and link it to these overseas deals, especially in Ukraine. Uh, do you think that if that happened, that Democrats would call you to testify and give your story?
Well, absolutely. If they have the opportunity to call witnesses, because as we
Right.
know, the Republicans control the House, so they're the ones that are in charge of who which witnesses to call or not. I don't know if the Democrats will have that opportunity, but if they do, I would assume absolutely they would call me because, look, I said it even in my letter that I wrote to Comer. I said, look, get the facts out, get the people that were on the ground, get me to testify on their oath, get Giuliani to testify on their oath, get John Solomon, get all these people that were really involved in producing all of these things that are now you guys are pushing onto the House floor and onto the media. So everybody get to the bottom line. Let's get all the facts out there. And if Joe Biden did something wrong, he deserves to be impeached or indicted, just like Donald Trump is. I mean, no, we look. I don't want a corrupt president. I don't care if he's Democrat, Republican. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to defend and say Joe Biden is an angel. I don't know everything Joe Biden did. I don't know everywhere. I could talk about the facts that I was involved with and the things that I seen or didn't see or got or didn't get. And that's what bothers me because the things that they're producing, I know are false. These are the same stories that I was dealing with 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, they didn't want to talk about these things. Nobody. I mean, I remember sitting there, Giuliani being upset because none of the Republicans or the media wanted to touch this stuff. Fox didn't even want to report on, and you would have only Hannity getting John Solomon on there, and that was about it. And when it came to the Congress or Senate, really nobody was touching it until I remember at a meeting we had at the BLT where Victoria Tunzing turned around and said, Ron Johnson's going to be our guy to push this into in the halls of Congress. And here you have it. Ron Johnson all of a sudden is meeting with all of these guys, and now all of this is being dispersed through all the so it's not like I'm seeing anything new. There's no new information. These are the same old conspiracy theories. I want to see the facts. Show me the
It's
wire
funny. It's
transfer.
funny you mentioned Ron Johnson because we all know that Biden is attacked for, quote, getting the prosecutor general in Ukraine fired, which was Viktor
Yeah,
Shokin. But Ron Johnson actually signed off on a letter from the US
absolutely.
Senate
That's right.
asking the Ukrainian president, believe it was Poroshenko at the time,
Poroshenko,
to
correct.
reform the prosecutor general's office, which is essentially the same thing as saying fire Shokin. So now he's
100%.
kind of flipped and
like, oh, Biden shouldn't have said this. This is evidence of corruption. But he was doing the exact same thing. And I think it was 4 days after that letter that he signed was sent to Poroshenko that Shokin resigned. He later came back and tried, saying, "Oh, I'm not really
Yeah,
resigning," but you get the point. So
absolutely.
Giuliani is this character. He has become this character, and now he's having his legal issues of his own. We've seen him disbarred. We've seen him sued in civil court for defamation,
Yep.
and now in the state of Georgia, he has been indicted, and
For
he's facing
Rico.
serious charges. He could end up getting prison time. What are your thoughts? Do you think Rudy Giuliani could handle being in prison or even home confinement like you had?
First of all, I don't think that's even he's even thinking about. I mean, the narcissism that is in that group of people out there, they don't believe that that actually is going to happen until the cell door will slam and he's sitting there. He's not going to believe that he's ever going to go away to prison. They feel that they always have a way out. That that this is because of their political contacts, because of everything that's going on. So I don't believe they really even put that as a factor yet. It's not a, but the other thing is people say home confinement, but the Rico case in Georgia is very serious. It's a minimum of 5 years in prison. If you get convicted, there is no home confinement. There is no, I mean, that's a minimum of 5 years in prison. That's very black and white. So I've always said the Georgia case is very, very detrimental to all of them because of not only the evidence that is. I mean, just recently I was watching the first live of the preach of the trial. The judge was having for Cheeseborough and Powell, and the DA came out and said there's going to be over 150 witnesses. I mean, that's something. They're not playing games over there. So I think, yeah, I think first of all, I don't believe that Giuliani would be able to handle prison. I mean, prison is a different world. When you lose your freedom, and these guys have no idea what it's like. I mean, to lose their freedom, especially at their age, at their level, and the way they live their lifestyle. And not only do you lose your freedom of movement, you lose your freedom of speech. You're not able to speak the way you want to, wherever you want to. You got limited time on the telephone that you're able to do. And for these guys, that's it. That's one of the most important things is to be able to spew their nonsense and conspiracy. So no, I don't believe that he's ready for it. I don't believe he realizes to what degree how serious this is. I think they still think that this is going to get somehow dismissed, that Trump's going to win and be able to get this thrown out, that it might get moved to federal court and then they'll get pardoned. I mean, I think they still have a lot of things that they're thinking about and not thinking about, prison at that time yet.
So, before we get to some final questions that I want to touch on about other topics, you are writing a book and you also have a GoFundMe to help you fund the publishing of that book after you had some issues with a publisher. Can you speak a little bit about the book, but also tell us about how the publisher seems to have dropped it and what you plan on doing?
Well, yeah. So it wasn't just a one publisher. There were several publishers that I got some really decent offers. Six figures that I decided to turn down because for what different reasons. Because they certain things that they didn't want in the book, or because they had other books that were coming out with people on the right, and it would contradict certain stories. Obviously, what they put in their book, and I would put in my book, and I wanted to have the freedom to write my own book the way they put, and don't hold back on anything and get the whole truth out, because that was the main reason I started writing the book. So I decided to go with my writer. He also is basically has a small little publishing firm that he's on his own, and we were basically self-publishing it with he's my co-writer on the book. So that's why we started up a GoFundMe page to be able to help with, there's lawyers, publicists, to be able to actually travel on a book tour, to be able to do it right and get the book out there because I think it's important for the public to hear not just what happened in Ukraine, but I was involved, and I call it shadow diplomacy for a reason, because Rudy Giuliani was running a shadow diplomacy with Trump as a shadow Secretary of State at the time. And I mean, there's things that I go into about Turkey, Venezuela. I mean, there's so much that happened with Venezuela. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, that I was on a phone call with Maduro. with certain Congress people on a phone call talking about giving Maduro a soft landing. Trump wanted to give him in return for
Wow.
elections. I mean, there was oil contracts that big GOP donors that received from PDVSA that nobody knows about. There's, Trump super PAC people involved. There's Congress people involved. There's so much more to Trump's 4 years in office that because he changes the news cycle so often and so quickly, and there's so much craziness going on that people lost really don't know the whole information. It's hard to be able to see it because especially after what happened on January 6th, I mean, that became the number one topic, the insurrection. So people forgot about, really don't realize exactly to what degree and to what, how many people were involved in the Ukraine situation, because it wasn't just Trump and Giuliani. You had Rick Perry, you had Vice President Pence at the time, you had Kurt Volker, who was special envoy to. I mean, you had lots of people that there was pressure being put through different avenues towards two different presidents. First Poroshenko, then Zelensky, prosecutors, ex and current prosecutors, the messages that were being laid out, the strategy. I mean, meetings all over the world. Andrei Yermak, Zelensky's chief of staff. I mean, I was in Spain. We had a meeting where Rudy literally was screaming at him and telling him, you better get this done, otherwise, you're not gonna have any relationship with Trump whatsoever. I mean, it just so there was lots and lots that was going on, not only with Ukraine but all other places in the world, especially Venezuela, and also during the Mueller report. I was very intricate with I was with Giuliani every day, basically. I was sat in the office when they were talking about, things. I was there when Trump, flew in from Mar-a-Lago to make that press release, make the announcement that Mueller, when Bill Barr came out and said that it was a nothing burger type of a situation. So there's a lot to the story, and that's why I want to make sure, and not only about Trump, and not only about people in Trump's orbit, like different Congress, like Devin Nunes, like Derek Harvey, Cash Patel. I mean, John Solomon, yeah, and the list goes on. I mean, there's a lot of people, Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy. I mean, people that were involved in all different kinds of things, but also I don't hold back and talk about all of these oligarchs that were helping him and that were involved overseas, not only Russian, Ukrainian, but also American big GOP donors, the super PACs and stuff that was going on. So I think when the public gets a chance to read it and understand exactly to the levels of degree that Trump and his cohorts would go to get what they wanted and wanted to achieve, they'll get a more understanding of who this guy really is. And hopefully it could change a lot of people's opinion that really don't know him. They talk about, even when we do the spaces, I ask people, I said, you're so diehard for him. I said, have you ever even met the guy? He wouldn't even allow you into his bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. Like, if you knew who this guy is, like, would you still be so, he's like just a picture for you. You see him on TV and you're making an opinion for yourself, and you're making this character out to be, but you don't know who this person is. You really need
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't let anybody into my bathroom either if I had national security secrets in there.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, most people won't store national security secrets in
So
your
so like
bathroom.
so I'm really excited about this book. The
Thank
GoFundMe,
you.
You have it at your Twitter profile. I'll post it. I'll post a link under the video
Thank you,
once we
guys. I
post it.
appreciate it. I
Um,
really do.
but I think, like, before we ask you if there's anything else you want to talk about, I just have one question. And obviously, what's happening in Ukraine, it's horrible. There's a lot of tense arguments and a lot of debates over what should happen and what Biden should be doing. Like, what's your thoughts? Like
Well,
what could Biden be doing?
first, I think, can you tell us, like, you are American? Are you Ukrainian? Like, where were you born? I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people would be interested in that.
Excuse me. I was born in Odessa, Ukraine, and back then it was 1972. It was the Soviet Union still, so it wasn't really Ukraine. It was the Soviet Union, but it was Odessa, Ukraine. I immigrated here when I was 3 years old. I've been a citizen since I turned 7, I think. So for over 40 years, I've been a citizen, and America is my country. I love it more than anything in the world, and I'm an American first. I do love Ukraine for different reasons. Obviously, I have family, friends, relatives over there, but also, the people there are incredible. They're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for sovereignty, and they're fighting for the rest of the world. See, a lot of people don't realize, and they're screaming about, this is not our war. This is, halfway around the world. We shouldn't even be involved in it. We should worry about our borders and crazy things like that. First of all, we should be able to handle both. America is the number one country in the world. We should be able to handle democracy and so, all over the world, and at the same time handle our borders or whatever problems we have in the United States. I don't think one reflects on the other. I think these are just talking points. Second of all, people are screaming, well, the next thing you're going to see are American troops on the ground, and we don't want to see American. I think on the contrary. I mean, if we don't support Ukraine with the finances and the military weapons, eventually we are going to see American troops, because eventually you're going to have this dictator, Putin, who's a monster, authoritarian, go after, a NATO country, or make some demands that America's not going to stand for. And at that point, we are going to see. I think by supporting Ukraine and giving them the weapons they need and the finances to be able, because that's all they're asking for. They're fighting this war themselves. They're the ones that are risking their lives. We don't have troops on the ground. This, for us, it's only money at the end of the day. And they're not only fighting for their sovereignty, but they're fighting for the whole world right now. Because if, God forbid, Russia takes over Ukraine, you're looking at a major, major power now. Now that's not that small Russia anymore. Now it's, getting back to the Soviet Union, the Cold War days, where you have a major um, uh, country that has weapons of mass destruction, that will be able to, rebuild. And now look who you have on the borders. How many NATO countries do you have? Like Poland. I mean, you got a bunch of NATO. I mean, what's next? You think he's going to stop there? I mean, that's just ridiculous. We're gonna have a problem. So I think it's extremely important for not only Ukrainian people, their sovereignty and their democracy, but for our own safety, for the world's safety, that we cut Russia's legs off where we can, by supporting Ukraine, by helping them win this war, and and save us from this crazy
How
dictator.
does it end? How does the Ukrainian-Russian war end?
Well, it's great. A great question. I actually, one of the things I do is I joined this group called Maria Report. They have a 24-hour disinformation space on Twitter, and it's incredible work they do. I've started co-hosting some of this spaces to be able to help with getting this, stop this Russian disinformation. And I could tell you one thing. I truly believe the way it ends is that Ukraine will get back all its territory, because there's not only because of the war itself, but there's a lot of problems going on in Russia right now that most people don't realize. It's not the same Putin anymore. What happened with the coup attempt with Prigozhin, and then him killing Prigozhin, and things that are happening, it showed a weakness and cracks in the system. And the longer this war goes on, the longer, the ruble is down to, I don't know, nothing. I mean, their economy is not doing well. People there are dying. There are lots of soldiers that are dying. They're cut off from the whole world, and I think it's just a matter of time that we see something like 1991. Where something, or again, Putin's not a young guy. I mean, he could just pass away. I mean, anything could happen. So but I think the war ends with the destruction of Putin.
So
Once Putin.
you think Putin will be destroyed from the inside of Russia?
Yeah, I think that's the way the war ends. I think eventually the pressure, either, he has health issues, or, there's internal fractions that, which are against him to begin with, but something has to, because as long as Putin's around, this war will continue on some level. Even if, you set up borders, there'll still be attacks. I mean, there's still, because Putin, from day one he came into office, has wanted to reunite the Soviet Union. And for him to do that, he needs Ukraine.
Makes sense. Yeah. No, thanks for your thoughts on that. I think you have a pretty accurate assessment, at least in my opinion. So I guess, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything you want to touch on? Obviously, congratulations on being a free
Thank you,
man.
guys. Yeah,
I know
incredible.
you've had a you've had a rough 4 years, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all the supporters, the followers. I mean, look, I'm just getting started. Now that I'm free, I'm able to, with the book tour and getting the book out, getting the information out. I want to help do whatever I can to reunite our country, to stop this division, because stop this anger, stop this hatred towards one another over politics. I mean, we could disagree over policies. We could disagree if you're Republican, to hate each other, to have families, not be able to sit at the same table. The amount of stories I hear, people calling me sometimes and begging me, can you speak to my brother or speak to my father, because he won't speak to me because he's for Trump, and because I'm on the left and he's on the right, and because of that we haven't had Thanksgiving dinner for 2 years already, or something like that. I mean, that's crazy just to think about that. That needs to stop. We need to unite. America has to get strong again. We need to root out all of this, crazy corruption that's been taking place. Hopefully this year, with these cases and these trials coming up, we need to put an end to them, either find him guilty or find him innocent, but we need to stop. We need to move on. We need to get past this and start trying to unite this country. And that's what I'm going to be working on and trying to do, because I think we need that, for the future of our kids and grandkids and American people.
Keep up the good work, and I know you take part in a lot of X spaces, and you've been great for the community. So just keep up the good work. Congratulations again on your freedom. I'm sure you're going to be taking your family to parks, and you're going to be going
Yes,
to the grocery store and getting excited about buying groceries again. Just
absolutely.
the simple things in life, right?
Exactly. That we take for granted, that I don't take for granted anymore, that I thank God, so much. And you guys are incredible. You do incredible work yourselves. And I always, appreciate the opportunity to be on either X Spaces or your podcast, because I think you guys do incredible work. So thank you for having me.
Thanks again.